now, set to make his way to the cage, presenting Brad Ferguson.
Brad Ferguson, 16 years of age, making his debut. I think tonight, Chris, we're going to see in this bout the two youngest men on the card. MMA ex-Jim, Denniston Sutherland in his corner there. Been training for 3 years. Says his strengths are his stand-up, his boxing, and that's why on this fight he's been working on his BJJ. But 16 years of age, what a platform.
Yeah, and what an amazing time as well. 3 years training, that speaks volumes, doesn't it, Malcolm? You mentioned Denniston Sutherland, one of the old school guys here in the UK MMA scene. He went out there and he said, look, I'm not going to rush this. I don't want to be a Facebook fighter. I don't want to be in there for 6 months, maybe even a few months and go out there and get my first fight. I want to put a few years to get it right, to get the formula and show my love of the sport. And I think that really speaks volumes about what he wants to go out there and do tonight as a debutant.
Yes, 5'10", tall young man at this weight. And I said, they really are the next generation. And this is what Rise of Champions does so well, promote these youngsters, give them this platform. What a way to make your debut.
And here he is in the ring, Brad Ferguson.
And now, set to make his way to the cage, presenting George James.
George James, Ferguson's opponent, also 16 years of age, also making his debut. And like his opponent, he's been training for 2 years solid, Chris, and he said for this one, he's been working specifically on his wrestling, which I think Ferguson must have had an inkling of, because Ferguson's convinced that George James will try to take him to canvas.
Yeah, and again, the fact that he went out there and had 2 years to get ready to compete for the first time. It's early in the game. He said, I'm a young guy, and I want to go out there. I want to make sure I'm at the right point where I feel comfortable, where I've all the well-rounded skills. If it goes to the ground, I'll be ready. If it stays upright, I'll be ready. And again, for me, that speaks volumes. Focused on the wrestling, as you said, Malcolm, that may be key tonight. Both guys are going to look to try to make sure they stay where they want to be. And we all know in MMA, wrestling is the most fundamental discipline to make sure you have that answer in the ring. Really said that his coaches and training partners bring a lot to the table. So too did Brad Ferguson argue the same. So back to Buddy Johnson. Let's get this one official.
One Punch Promotions in association with Black's Burgers and Whip Street Motors presents 3 3-minute rounds in the amateur flyweight division. Now we introduce first the blue corner. He stands at 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed in officially at 125.5 pounds. His debut this evening, he fights out of MMA X, presenting Brad Ferguson. And across the cage in the red corner, standing 5 feet 8 inches tall, he weighed in officially at 125 pounds even. Also his debut this evening, he fights out of Team Titan, presenting George James. When the action begins, your referee in charge, Daniel Mobahedi.
Two young men embarking on their MMA careers at just 16 years of age here on Rise of Champions. And this probably epitomizes what this event is all about, Chris.
That's right. Brad Pickett said, look, I grew up in the UK. There was no proper staging platform for young guys to come in, have a great opportunity to show their skills, develop, improve, and move towards the professional ranks. And what better way to make your amateur debut than right here?
That's right, and it's a tie-up early because both men were testing each other's upright ability. And Ferguson was right. After a couple of stinging exchanges, George James went for the single leg, and he went for it again, but he's had to eat a couple of knees trying to get there, and he's still going for that single leg, Chris.
Yeah, he's trying to make sure he can maybe trip that back leg. He was using a couple of different techniques, and this is the chaining of attacks. Now goes double leg, gets the pickup, drives forward, takes him down. The pace of the 125-pound division is always fun to watch. And again, a real treat to have these guys on the card tonight and show that athleticism and, of course, the seamlessness. Both guys move and weave those techniques together. Much greater, in my opinion, than a guy who's having their first fight.
And also, Chris, that sheer exuberance of youth. You'll never replace that. 16 years of age, the world really is at their feet, and they're making a great job of it. As you said, George James relentless in the takedown. And you mentioned earlier, and something I want to pick you up on again, this 30-foot cage, when you rush someone and you've got it on, it really helps you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can be. It can be an asset, but it can also be a detriment as well, because if you're a movement-based guy and you're really, really good with your footwork, you've got that much more real estate to play with. So it just depends. But yeah, if you've got that takedown locked up, you can run him across and really make sure you suck the base away. Here we go. Single leg. Not quite right, though. He tried to go low single. That's not going to work here. Good frame and a knee. Just beautiful offense and defense from both guys.
Ferguson's done a good job because George James, as he rightly predicted, has set his stall out early. But for most of the time, I like Brad Ferguson's sprawls. I like his knee defense. He's made it very difficult for George to get where he wants to be.
He's trying to go for that trip again. That's going to be a tough ask at this point, though, because one of the things to watch out for is not only the entry to the takedown, but the posture once you're in a hold of your guy. He's kind of bent over right now, so he'll be quite weak here. You can still take someone down, but it's a more difficult proposition.
Yes, Brad Ferguson has done a good job across the opening round there. Looking for the trip again, but Ferguson, nice turn, breaks free once more. Oh, James went for the right hook as Ferguson went for the roundhouse, and both missed quite cleanly, which has forced this new position, Chris.
Now Ferguson on top, open guard. George James off his back. He's been able to recover it here. Let's see what he's got.
Well, an interesting opening round, Chris, that ended really with the first real takedown from a mistake by both men. James went for a looping right hook just as Ferguson went for the right roundhouse. Both missed. They hit the deck. James ended up on top, but really with that 10-second clacker, there wasn't much he could do there.
And it was such a back-and-forth fight. I mean, both guys just giving positions, attacking, and going from kicks to takedowns to scrambles back up to the feet. Those guys covered a lot of real estate and space. So the big question is, could cardio become a factor? When you've got that kind of high output, high energy style, it comes down to winning rounds, but it also comes down to energy management, because you got to be ready to go 3 hard rounds against guys who really you don't have any tape on. You have no idea about their weaknesses or strengths. Both seem to be very well trained at this point, so I'm excited for round 2 of 3.
So here we go with round 2, and Ferguson comes straight off with the punches, and James again looks to spin, take that double leg. Better positioning to open that second round with Chris from James. Much more, I think, thoughtful when he went for that takedown.
And he thought about going for that flyover pass there. He's got a couple of different options here. If he works quick, he should be able to step into half, and he does so successfully. Cheeky couple of punches from his opponent, but he overstepped, and that got him in trouble. Looking to try to work out of half here. Good punches. Punch, punch, punch. Control position and punch. It's got to be an alternating methodology. And you can slide your way higher. It's not a simple affair of being able to out-grapple your opponent, but you got to stay busy and stay in position. The problem there, he got a little too greedy.
That's right, and a nice reversal there from Brad Ferguson. But that's what you mentioned about the pace, the movement, and this bout having everything is the speed of the reversals and the movement. And this looks dangerous now, Chris.
He's got that triangle on, but it's not going to be enough. It wouldn't have been enough because he didn't have complete control of the head, the neck, the shoulder, the arm. It wasn't quite deep enough. It was a noble and valiant effort, but the problem is when you throw your guard up like that, you've got to be prepared for the consequences. And if you overcommit with the submission attack, you can wind up being passed and, well, passing guard, the next step, getting a mount.
Yes, it was a nice pass there, as you said, from Brad Ferguson. Nice turnaround, postures up, looking for that heavy right hand. James responds, and it's back and forward, gives up his back now, Chris.
He's got that choke on, went full figure 4. That's a wrap. Looks tight. Can he get the squeeze on here? He's going to try to hand fight, but this could be a done deal, Malcolm.
Yes, it's in tight. Checking George James. Is Dan Mulvahedi our referee? James not tapping yet. Ferguson looking, and just checking once more, Dan, to make sure that he's still awake here.
Doesn't quite have the position he'd like. He had the arm underneath the chin, but the right thing was done. James turned into the choke, fought the one hand. He didn't quite have a 2-on-1 grip, but it was just enough, because what you're looking for on that figure four is to kind of get the hand that's actually behind the neck in position. He had it kind of on top of the head, and he couldn't get that complete scissor, as we like to say, which would have made the position far more worse.
But what it does mean is we've had such a back and forward round, and we continue to do so.
And he drops her an ankle lock. Didn't overheat, he giving him a warning to make sure he doesn't reap that leg. In amateur rules, you don't have the full arsenal of leg locks. Level change, fakes the jab and then ducks in.
Oh, back and forward this one for ascendancy on the ground. And again, you mentioned cardio. I don't think it's a problem with these two 16-year-olds. The pace has been relentless here.
Yeah, it was a question I had to ask given the nature of what we'd seen in the first round, but George James is a man on a mission. But again, he's kind of bent over here, which is going to be a little bit difficult to get the pickup as he'd like. He could go high crouch, but he needs to change his grip and he needs to change the way that he's positioning in on the shot. Anyways, another great round. I mean, both guys showing just raw talent and stick-withedness, and for me, it's just a beautiful thing to see.
It was an interesting second round in the sense, Chris, that neither man could really get ascendancy and authority. So for the judges, they have to look really at the submission attempts from both and decide who was the more effective, which I consider a tough job in that round, because back and forward, both with their opportunities. Which for me sets up a tantalizing third and final round. Third and final round of a potentially very close fight, depending what angles the judges are seeing and how they're scoring the various takedowns and defenses and reversals. It's definitely been James looking consistently for that takedown, and what I like about Ferguson is he's looked to capitalize on any, and we can say this, genuine schoolboy errors, because they're both 16.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like a massive mistake, but it's just kind of little details. We said it during the intermission, Malk, and one of the things you'll see from these younger fighters is just that more raw stick-withedness, that kind of like a dog on a bone. They don't want to let go, even when it would be wise to actually reset or maybe take one step back to take 2 steps forward. But right now, it's just been a great pace, and neither guy is willing to back down.
And it's been many a time we've seen George James look to initiate, but he's in there now.
Bar. Beautiful stuff there. Quicker than you could say it, Malcolm. Up went the legs. He went belly down. And when that one is on, it's on.
Well, Chris, you're right. I was just about to say he likes to initiate and get those positions, and then suddenly, as you said, you actually tap him and say, look, not only is he getting the position, it's on. That was sweet and quick compared to the previous 2 rounds.
Yeah, you bet. Blinking, you'll miss it. What a way to turn the fight around as well.
And I think you summed it up best. What we had here was a very entertaining bout. Raw talent on display.
Yeah, I completely agree. And both guys got a very bright future. Win, lose, they're both going to learn. And they're both going to go out there and they're going to take lessons from this fight. They got a lot of ring time. Wasn't until the third that we saw a conclusion. So I'm just really excited to see more of these 2 youngsters in the future. And again, what a great stage to make their debut on.
Ladies and gentlemen, our referee called a stoppage that is about 58 seconds into the third round, declaring your winner by submission with an arm bar, presenting George James.